What's up, my fellow world explorers? Today we'll be looking at the video that says, why did Russia sell Alaska to America? This is something I've always wondered, to be honest with you guys, because like whenever I realize that Alaska is part of the United States when it's so far away from the United States, it has always been weird to me, to be honest. It has always been weird to me. So I guess there's oil in that place, right? There's oil in Alaska. I guess that was why the US wanted it, and I would like to know why Russia sold it. Before we get into it, do all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Also, if you love this reaction, hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Now let's get to it.
In late 1867, Alaska was transferred
1867.
from the ownership and dominion of the Russian Empire to the United States of America. It was sold for the princely sum of $7.2 million, and for most it's just a footnote in history. A question that should be asked
I'm sure it was
is,
very
why
big
did
at that
Russia
point.
decide to sell its overseas colony? Furthermore, why did it sell it to the United States and why not, say, Britain or some other colonial power? So the primary reason for the sale of Alaska was Russia's defeat in the Crimean War. The war had done several things. The first was that it had largely bankrupted Russia, which was struggling to repay the debts it had racked up in order to fight the war. The second was that the victories of the Royal Navy over the modernising Russian Navy had made it clear that Russia had a long way to go before it could challenge Britain at sea. As such, it was realised by the Russian leadership that should another war break out, there was little to stop Britain from simply conquering the territory via Canada.
Okay,
so
that
what
is
type
true.
of territory was Alaska? For a start, it wasn't called Alaska at the time, but simply Russian America. And for the Russian Empire, it provided several things.
Oil.
First of all was the prestige that came with owning an overseas territory. As for its economic benefits, Alaska was a much more mixed bag, which combined with the cost to protect it, you can see why the sale was seen as necessary. Incidentally, the sale of Russian America was broached by Emperor Alexander II's brother, the Grand Duke Constantine, who wanted to strengthen and liberalise the empire in the wake of the defeat in the Crimean War. It didn't take much to convince the emperor to agree to the sale, but now the question was, to whom? Well, Britain was an obvious contender, given that its North American lands were already attached to Russian America, and they already had the right to navigate its waters and trade with the colony. So why didn't they sell to Britain? Well, Russia and Britain were imperial rivals, and to give Britain a large coastline so close to Russia was potentially dangerous. Also, Britain wasn't interested, since Canada is already huge and Britain had enough access to the Pacific Ocean. Thus, the United States of America was really the only likely candidate for the purchase. Russia had approached the US in the early 1860s concerning the purchase, but they were undergoing this little-known event called the American Civil War, and so were a bit busy. After the war was settled and the US had to deal with the issues of reconstruction, the purchase of Alaska was seen as a useful distraction. The Russian Empire was also keen to keep up the ongoing good relations with the Americans, because as an ally they would be useful. It was agreed in March 1867 between the governments of the US and Russia that Alaska would be bought, but how did they come up with the price? Well, Russia had sent a team of surveyors to look for things like natural resources and to see how good life in Alaska was. And it was determined that Alaska was worth about $10 million. However, the surveyors argued that Alaska shouldn't be sold at all and that the governance of it simply be reformed. The emperor ignored this and both sides negotiated until the sum of $7.2 million was agreed. In October 1867 it was transferred to America, and Russia's attention would thereafter be focused to the south and to the west. I hope you enjoyed this.
That was interesting. Guys, do you think Russia actually regrets that transaction? I mean, like, last I heard that Alaska has oil. So, I mean, I guess maybe Russia were broke at that point in time. And the fact that they sold it to the US of all countries, I mean, I know at that point in time, the US probably were not a threat. I mean, like, like from what I've seen, it seems like up until World War II, the US were not, imperialistic in any way. They were just mostly in their own territory. So I guess maybe at that point Russia didn't see any danger of selling to the US. I don't know, but definitely Russia wouldn't sell anything to the US right now. At least maybe not. They can sell, of course, maybe things like, but they cannot sell. I don't think they will sell something like land to the US at this point in time. But I think at that point, just like as they said in this video, they wouldn't have liked to sell to the British because the British were rivals at that point. So obviously, it seems like the US were not rivals at that point in time. So anyway, that was nice. I just wanted to. These are stuff I like to learn. To know why all these things happen. And 7.2 million. Wow. I mean, I know it probably was big at that point. Like, guys, can you tell me, like, if you want to, I don't know the calculation, how they calculate that stuff, but if you want to adjust to inflation, how much could it be now? Tell me down in the comments below if you have any idea. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the reaction. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.